The night started like any other at Firehouse Subs, the prestigious restaurant that stood as a beacon of culinary excellence in our small town. I was an employee there, a humble sandwich artist tasked with crafting delicious subs for the eager patrons who flocked to our establishment. I never could have imagined the horrors that would unfold within those crimson walls on that fateful evening. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the atmosphere in Firehouse Subs began to change. The amber lighting, warmth, and inviting, now cast eerie shadows that danced upon the walls like malevolent spirits. The crackling of the faux fireplace, a centerpiece of our dining area, grew louder, its flames seemingly leaping higher with every passing minute. The patrons who filled the restaurant didn't seem to notice the shift in ambiance. They chatted and laughed, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of their smartphones. It was as if they were under some strange spell, oblivious to the impending doom that lurked just beneath the surface. I continued my work behind the counter, slicing meats and assembling sandwiches with practiced precision. My coworker, Sarah, stood beside me, her expression one of unease. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of conversation. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. Something was definitely amiss, but I couldn't put my finger on it. The air grew heavy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. As the evening wore on, the restaurant began to empty out, leaving only a handful of stragglers nursing their half-finished subs. The overhead lights flickered, casting the room into brief moments of darkness. It was then that I noticed the subtle, disconcerting change in the restaurant's decor. The once pristine fireman's memorabilia that adorned the walls now appeared weathered and worn. The framed photographs of heroic firefighters, their faces frozen in determined resolve, had taken on an unsettling, almost sinister quality. Their eyes seemed to follow me, accusing me of some unknown transgression. Sarah and I exchanged nervous glances, and without a word, we decided to investigate. We slipped through the swinging door that led to the back of the restaurant, our footsteps muffled by the industrial-grade carpet. The further we ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. In the kitchen, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows that seemed to writhe and contort. The industrial-sized ovens emitted an otherworldly heat, making us break into a sweat despite the already sweltering summer evening. We continued our exploration, our dread mounting with every step. The storage room, normally filled with crates of fresh produce and sandwich ingredients, was eerily empty. The shelves that should have been stocked to the brim were barren, as if someone or something had purged them. "What's going on here?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. I had no answers. I was just as lost and terrified as she was. We decided to return to the front of the restaurant and confront our manager, Mr. Henderson, who had disappeared into his office earlier in the evening. As we approached his office door, we could hear a low, guttural murmur emanating from within. It was a voice, but not one that belonged to Mr. Henderson. It sounded ancient, like the whisper of some malevolent entity from the depths of the earth. I reached for the doorknob, my hand trembling. As I pushed the door open, a sight met my eyes that sent a shiver down my spine. Mr. Henderson sat at his desk, hunched over a leather-bound book, his eyes glazed over as he chanted in a language I could not comprehend. "Mr. Henderson," I stammered, but he didn't respond. His gaze remained fixed on the book before him. Sarah and I exchanged another glance, and in unison, we stepped closer to get a better look at the book. Its pages were filled with bizarre symbols and illustrations of grotesque creatures, their forms contorted in unspeakable ways. It was as if the book itself radiated an evil energy. We tried to pull Mr. Henderson away from the book, but he resisted with surprising strength. His chanting grew louder, more frenzied, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Frost formed on the windows, and our breath hung in the frigid air. Desperation gripped us as I managed to snatch the book from Mr. Henderson's grasp. The moment my fingers touched the ancient leather cover, a searing pain shot through my hand, and I dropped it with a cry. The book fell to the ground, its pages flipping open to a grotesque illustration of a monstrous, fire-breathing creature. As soon as the book hit the ground, the room shook violently, as if an earthquake had erupted beneath us. The walls seemed to close in, and the air filled with an acrid, burning smell. The book began to emit an otherworldly glow, casting eerie, shifting shadows that danced along the walls. Sarah and I stumbled out of the office, gasping for breath. The entire restaurant seemed to be in upheaval. Tables and chairs toppled over, and the overhead lights swayed ominously. The fire in the folk fireplace roared to life, its flames dancing wildly as if possessed by some malevolent force. We knew we had to escape, but the exit seemed impossibly far away. The very floor beneath us felt as if it were crumbling away into some endless abyss. Panic clawed at my chest, and I felt as if we were trapped in a nightmare with no way out. Amid the chaos, a voice echoed through the restaurant. It was a deep, sinister voice, filled with malice and ancient knowledge. "You should not have taken the book," it hissed, and I realized, with a sickening dread, that the voice seemed to be coming from the very walls themselves. Sarah and I stumbled toward the front entrance, the world around us spiraling into madness. The patrons who remained in the restaurant were no longer human, their faces contorted into grotesque masks of agony, their bodies twisted and distorted. It was as if they had become a part of the restaurant, absorbed into its malevolent essence. With a final surge of strength, we burst through the front door and stumbled out into the night. Behind us, the restaurant seemed to convulse, as if it were a living, breathing entity. The folk fireplace erupted in a burst of flames that soared into the sky, illuminating the night with an eerie, blood-red glow. We never looked back. The horrors we had witnessed that night were too much to bear. Firehouse Subs, once a symbol of culinary excellence, had become a twisted nightmare, a place where the flames of hell themselves had consumed everything in their path. To this day, I can still hear the whispers of that ancient, malevolent presence beckoning me to return to the restaurant. But I know that I can never go back. The horrors that lurked beneath the flames of Firehouse Subs are not meant for human eyes, and I pray that no one else will ever have to experience the terrors that Sarah and I endured on that night of unspeakable horror.